at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We gotta unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live here Tuesday, June 25th, brothers and sisters of the resistance, and we are still a resistance, and I think we need to pick it up. I think we, the resistance, us, have to start pushing Congress on the Democratic side to be the resistance that we elected. We'll talk about that later. Hope you're having a good day. It's Tuesday, June 25th. I'm Dean Obeidallah. As always, want to be your MBFF. And Michelangelo Signorelli down in Miami, getting ready for the debates. Tomorrow he'll check in with us. Hopefully we'll find out what it's like down in the spin room. Tomorrow's the big debate, so a lot of tomorrow's show will be a little preview of that. And then, of course, Thursday and Friday, the two debates back to the days after the back-to-back debates. We will cover that a lot. First, before we get into some very serious stuff, we need a little humor. So a couple of quick jokes from Colbert. This first one is on Trump backing off of Iran and Colbert State. Clip number one, please.
Then, today, Trump announced new sanctions on Iran, and at the signing ceremony, he explained one of the reasons he called off the strike.
Obviously, the people of Iran are great people. You know, I know many of them. I lived in New York, haven't been there very much the last 2.5 years, but I know many Iranians living in New York, and they're fantastic people. I have many friends that are Iranian.
I did not bomb them this time, but if I changed my mind, you should all know that I would be obliterating some fantastic people. Really great. They will be missed.
And there was Trump, that typical answer of, I know them, they're great people, so I'm not going to kill them. It's just off the chart stuff. And then quickly, here's a quick joke about the planned Trump ICE raids, which sort of gets us into the issue we're going to talk about. Here's clip number two, please.
On Sunday, ICE planned to conduct a major operation in multiple cities to round up and deport undocumented families, even undocumented parents who have children who are U.S. citizens. So it is possible parents could be deported while their children are left behind. How did that? I agree. Thankfully, on Saturday, Trump announced he'll delay the deportation operation. What changed his mind? Well, apparently his buddy Nancy Pelosi called him on Friday night, and today she revealed what she said to him.
You're scaring the children of America.
And the adults aren't doing too well either. Trump explained.
You're scaring the children of America, Speaker Pelosi. She's right, and he's scaring the adults as well. He's aging the crap out of me. And the issue today, again, I mean, it's such a heavy heart. And it's interesting that the children who are the migrant children, I've never met them, obviously. I don't know them. But every time we've covered this, last year the same thing with family separation, all of us became emotional. For all of us, it touches us. I don't even have children. I imagine if I had children, I could see that even more. But it touches all of us, what is going on. And I'm so glad we covered it yesterday. And I'm very happy that tonight, cable news, not because of this show, but because of whatever media narrative that broke through, they finally got the fact that they have to start covering what's going on with the children a little bit more. And I want to update people on what happened from yesterday till today. But also wanted to read a few quotes from you, one's from Warren Binford, a law professor, and Holly Cooper, an attorney who represents detained youth. They both went down to the Clint, Texas facility. It's outside of El Paso. And this is the one in Clint, Texas that all the coverage has been going on. Hundreds and hundreds of young kids there, children, toddlers there. And here are some of their quotes. They said, "They were the worst conditions that I've ever seen in the United States of America." Another quote was, "We have children who are being kept in cells where they are sleeping on concrete floors. There are as many as 25, 50, 60 children in these cells with open toilets in the middle." Another comment was, "They were filthy, dirty. There was mucus on their shirts. Their shirts were dirty. We saw breast milk on their shirts." Another quote was, "They're having to eat in these cells. They're having to defecate in these cells. The children are sick. There's an influenza outbreak in the facility. There's a lice infestation in at least one of the cells. And the children are being forced to care for one another because there is no one caring for them there." And the final quote, In my 22 years of doing visits with the children in detention, I've never heard of this level of inhumanity. These are people who've been for years going down there, visiting the children, saying things. In my 22 years, I've never seen this level of inhumanity. And when you hear the way they describe it, I think you would agree. You would never even treat animals like this. That is, unless you didn't care if those animals died. That's the only way you would ever treat children like this. If you didn't care, they die because they're not human. They've been dehumanized to you. In the last 8 months, 6 migrant children have died in Trump custody. At least 6 we know of because they concealed from us. They covered up for 6 months the death of a 10-year-old El Salvadorian girl who died in late September 2018. And we just learned about it a few weeks ago because it's CBS News reporting. So we really don't know how many children have died. I'm not going to be irresponsible and say hundreds of children are dead and they're burying them in someplace. That would be irresponsible. Are there more than 6? It's plausible given they hid that other one. We don't know the answer. We need Congress to do their job and figure it out. And then today, Donald Trump, a short time ago, told the media, he lied to the media and said the conditions under Obama were worse for the children than they are now under Trump. And this is pure gaslighting, and this is not for us because we're not idiots. We know the truth. It's for his base so they can go repeat it and feel better. And even though children are dying, like, oh, children died under Obama too. Well, let me play the Trump clip, and then we fact check quickly. Here's clip number 3. Here's Trump a short time ago.
Yes, I am. I'm very concerned. And they're much better than they were under President Obama, by far. And we're trying to get the Democrats to agree to really give us some humanitarian aid, humanitarian money. And that is a very fair question. And I appreciate that question. But I'm very concerned. It's in much better shape than it ever was.
So there he is lying. He's telling you it's in better shape now than it ever was. How many migrant children died under Obama's administration? Do you want to guess? 0. How many died? How many children, 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 7-year-old, have died in the last 8 months under Trump? 6 children. 6 children have died. And the gaslighting is not just Trump. Mike Pence, I played the clip. And then last night, Republican Congressman Michael Burgess was on Chris Hayes' show and was asked about the horrific conditions. And what did he say? He went after the validity of the news reports, of the police, of the lawyers who went down there, essentially wondering if it's fake news. He said, I don't know if it's hyperbole. He goes, I know that the hatred for the president is so intense, people are liable to say anything. And Burgess went on to admit that he had not been to the Clint, Texas facility. But this is, again, part of the gaslighting of the Trump base. So they have no moral culpability for defending a president who's killing children. But here to set the record straight, here's Congresswoman Karen Bass, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, on CNN this morning, laying out exactly what is going on. Here's clip number 4.
You cannot tell me that the federal government does not have money for toothpaste and soap. This is inflicted on these children as punishment to try to bring Democrats to the table to compromise on the border wall. I think that is absolutely important. The other thing that I think is critical is that we need to stop saying that the policy for family separation has ended. It has not. Since when is a grandmother, an aunt, or a sibling not considered family? Only at the U.S. border.
And then Karen Bass went on to talk about how Trump, to make the point very clear, she touched on it there and then made it even more emphatic, that Donald Trump is punishing and torturing. And torturing is an interesting word for her to use, and a lawyer used it yesterday who visited the children. Torture is in the international criminal law. Under international law for crimes against humanity, torture is one of the elements there. And I think we're creeping closer to Donald Trump being charged with crimes against humanity. So here is Karen Bass. Here's clip number 5, Congresswoman Karen Bass.
Yes, children are still being separated.
You know, this is a human rights abuse. This is such a stain on our country. I have spent the last 20 plus years working to transform our nation's child welfare system. And this is a situation, like my tweet said, if any parent did anything that is going on the border, the children would literally be taken away and put in foster care. You can't tell me that this problem cannot be solved. You remember that President Trump just a few days ago said, well, he was going to cancel education, cancel recreation, cancel the hygiene needs. This was deliberate. How dare you torture children to try to get a compromise out of Democrats? And I am sorry, but hearing about children walking around in soiled diapers, hearing about children taking care of toddlers, you are talking about straight up child abuse. And I think that this needs to be condemned internationally, frankly.
I agree with her. That's why I said yesterday the UN should begin an investigation immediately into the Trump regime. It's a regime. It's not a government administration. It's a regime like North Korea or Iranian regime. And I wrote about it for the Daily Beast, and hopefully it'll be published tomorrow on this. It's something we discussed yesterday. Let me be clear. Donald Trump, on some level, certainly morally, maybe legally, is responsible for the death of these 6 children. Not only did they happen on his watch, they happened because of his tone that he has set. This is a man who has demonized the migrants coming here. Let's be honest. If you work for the Trump regime, if you're part of his administration, even if you're just down at Border Patrol or you're the private contractors, they are charged with caring for these children. And if you believe Donald Trump that the migrants coming here in invading force, very bad thugs, as he said, and gang members who are going to brutally kill Americans, all that Trump said, unless they're stopped now. These are all Trump's words. If you believe that, then these children are just the kids of bad people. And then you don't care about them when they cry. You don't care when they have mucus on their shirts, they have lice or influenza, that a 3-year-old is being cared for by an 8-year-old because the guards don't care about them because you're the child of a thug or a gang member or a drug dealer or a rapist. That's what Donald Trump has done. Donald Trump is morally responsible, and I would hope one day legally responsible. One day. I'm not sure when that day comes because our House leadership won't even hold him responsible for obstruction of justice under the Mueller report. That's why we need the UN, because the House Democratic leadership and not the rank and file Democrats. Now we have 75 who want impeachment. And to me, these two issues intersect. Because if you're not going to hold Trump responsible for that, he's not being held responsible for anything. He is winning. He's stonewalling every congressional request for Hope Hicks. Now Kellyanne Conway, we have Danny Savalas coming in the next hour. We'll talk about that. Stonewalling on financial records, on bank statements, on calling emergencies and just spending money any way he wants to build his wall, firing people left and right and putting those just acting heads of departments so they don't have to go before the Senate, and keeps recycling them and changing them before they have to go before the Senate and they're held accountable. Donald Trump has made himself a king. And if the Republicans had the House, I could say, well, what could we do about it except for scream in the streets? But we worked hard for the House Democrats to do something about this. And one day historians will look back, if God forbid Trump is reelected, and as Donald Trump then ascends to some level of authoritarian leader in this country, they will say, you know what, the Democrats had control of one chamber of Congress, and they could have tried the impeachment inquiry, and maybe they could have stopped him, but they chose not to because the Speaker of the House thought it wasn't a good idea, nor did Steny Hoyer, the second in command. So where do we stand now? We have last night, the Trump regime announced 300 kids from this facility were going to be moved to another place because of the bad press. And that's why a UN investigation would be a good idea. They'll be shamed into action. But a short time ago, 100 of those almost 300 kids, they're moving back to the facility saying, well, there's no beds in any other place. You can't believe anything the Trump administration said. This is using children as a negotiating ploy. That's what Trump is doing. He's using these children, just like Congresswoman Karen Bass, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. I played her clips. She made it clear. He is using these children as ploys to get more money from Congress, to build his wall, to fund ICE, to have more mass deportation sweeps around the nation. And right now, as we sit here, and Congressman Ro Khanna was going to be on, and he can't because they're going to have a House vote, and they're having tense moments in the Democratic caucus today because Donald Trump wants $4.5 billion in emergency funding. Some of this for humanitarian crisis at the border. And there's a Senate bill that just gives them the money. Well, then, where it says you cannot use this money except for these children, except to help these people. But they can't find an agreement on that. And the progressives in the chamber are really working hard. The Senate bill is a horrible bill. You're giving him $4.5 billion, which he'll use for ICE raids. The last thing he'll do is give for these kids. Let's be blunt. He's not going to care about these kids. His administrations, I played for you yesterday, he's arguing literally last week in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to a federal judge saying, we don't want to give the kids a bed. We want to let them sleep on concrete floor. We don't want to give them a toothbrush or soap. Do you think he's going to use this money to help these kids? These kids are not human to him. And you have members of Congress who are Republicans defending it. You have his lawyers at the DOJ defending it. You have people on Fox News defending it. And if you look back at the dark points in our history, and you wonder, how did these people become authoritarians? How did they do horrific acts of vile crimes against humanity? You know how? Because it's happening right in front of us. Because I imagine those lawyers who argued that these kids should not get a bed or toothpaste or toothbrush, and even members of Congress, if you had asked them before this 2 years ago or 3 years ago or under Obama, they would be going crazy. What is Obama doing? But now under Trump, they're okay with it. And you're seeing the stakes for 2020. So right now they're debating, and that's why Congressman Khanna can't be on. He was going to be on in a few minutes. In fact, we found out a short time before the show he can't be on because they're debating in the House caucus now to agree to funding $4.5 billion in emergency appropriations with some strings attached. The problem is these strings that they are going to apply, which are great on paper, and I think they will be effective to a certain extent, will never get approved in the Senate, meaning we'll be back to square one. And here's a question I put out there for you. Do you give Trump $4.5 billion with a B, $4.5 billion that he wants with a B, with no strings attached, hoping it goes to the kids? Because your heart breaks for these children who are innocent kids who came here either with their parents or on their own fleeing violence in their home nations. Do you just give them the money and hope for the best? Or do you say no to Trump? And we're going to say no, knowing that some kids might suffer. And only us as progressives care about this. Only for us is this the debate. Only for us does it break our heart to make this decision. Because for the right, it doesn't matter at all. They care less. These are not children. These are kids of drug dealers and rapists and criminals who want to kill you. They don't care about them. We care about them. And that's why we're stuck. That's why this is a tough issue. Tough issue for me. So what do you think? Should the Democrats, and they're going to vote tonight or tomorrow, they're having a heated discussion now. They're trying to amend the bill. Look, the bill that they're contemplating in the House now with the amendments to it and the changes is, I think, the best you can hope for. You're going to give the money. You're going to hamstring Trump as much as you can by law. And if Trump then declares an emergency, just uses the money for his wall instead, which he might do because he did that just a few months ago, at least then it makes a better case in the courtroom that we said Trump could not use his money for anything but these kids and humanitarian help. It doesn't get the money to the kids, though. It just means it's tied up in court for another 6 months or a year. Or do you just say no to Trump and just say, you know what? We're going to say no to you. No more money for ICE. No more money for anything you want. We're going to say no. We'll even shut the government down. We're going to say no. We become the party of no. Because this is a human rights violation. This is a crime against humanity happening in your name, happening by this authoritarian, is the best way I can put it, because I don't want to say other world figures from historian figures, which were just misplaced. I don't want to get into that because people are like, they're not really like that person. Let's not waste time with that. Let's talk about what's going on in front of us. So what do you think? 866-997-4748. Should the Democrats agree to $4.5 billion if they can put conditions on it? And if they can't put conditions, do they say no, even meaning it might make more children suffer? What do we do? And I interviewed Joy Reid. She'll be on the show in the 8 o'clock hour, pre-recorded today, and chatting with her, just increasingly, distressingly upset with the House leadership. Because perhaps if they're doing impeachment, Trump wouldn't be doing this game. But he's got nothing to lose. We're losing. We won the House and we're losing. He's doing everything he wants. Everything. And we're having hearing, and we're going to have a vote tomorrow to maybe subpoena Kellyanne Conway. That's our big reaction. I'm not even kidding. That's what we're going to do. House Judiciary is going to consider a vote tomorrow to have a subpoena, not hold her in contempt, to subpoena her, because they're still doing the nice thing with Kellyanne Conway and Trump officials. Oh, could you please come in voluntarily? Here's a date. And then they don't come in. Then 2 weeks later, they have a vote. And then 2 weeks later, they're on vacation. Subpoena them right away. Start with subpoena. How about that? And I don't care what the past is. Trump doesn't care about any norm, any tradition. Subpoena them. Start with subpoena. They don't come and go to court immediately. Try to hold them in contempt. You got to do that. The stakes are too high. And it's going to impact and dissipate our enthusiasm for 2020 if in 2 years from now we've got nothing to show for the House control except more and more lawsuits, children in camps dying, no impeachment inquiry, and a bunch of bills passed in the House. And this is Speaker Pelosi's big thing. We're passing all these bills. You know what? America doesn't know about those bills you pass because they're not even getting a chance to vote in the Senate. They're not becoming law. So what the hell is going on? 866-997-4748. Love to hear from you. You're my guest right to the top of the hour right here on the Dean Obeidallah Show.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Voting is the most important civil right of our era because the